guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Heather. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, elementary, middle, and high school age. We are in our 12th year homeschooling. If you are not subscribed, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you are notified of all of my future videos. Today, I'm going to be joining in on a collaboration with Alicia from DAC Family, all about how our summer reading went. This is going to be for me as well as my kids, so it should be a fun time. If you love book recommendations or you're looking for new books to read, I will have a link to the playlist in the description box so you can see what everybody else was reading this summer. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with what my kids have been reading this summer. They were a little bit lighter on reading this summer compared to previous years, and it really was just because we were super busy. Most of our energy was focused on family and really enjoying the summer, so we did not do nearly as much reading as we usually do. I do have our summer plans, our summer homeschool plans, because we are year-round homeschoolers. I have a video for that, and I will leave it in the description box if you're interested in seeing all of the books that we had planned to read over the summer, or at least books that I had purchased to have available for my kids to read. We are literature-based homeschoolers, so we do a lot of reading anyways, and because we're year-round homeschoolers, we've actually already started our new homeschool books for the year about mid-July, which is probably why we did not do as much summer fun reading as we had expected, because we just didn't have the time this summer, and that is totally okay. So I'm going to start with my oldest. I could not find any of her books that she has read, so I did write them on a sticky note and I will read them to you. I'll put some pictures up here so that you can see what she was reading this summer. She is in high school, loves fantasy. She loves middle grade books. She reads a lot of classical literature. Think Jane Austen. She loves Jane Austen, which is good because she's going to be reading Pride and Prejudice for school this year, as well as Jane Eyre. She's already read Pride and Prejudice multiple times. That is actually one of the books that she read this summer. I don't know if I'm going to have her reread it or not because she has read it so many times and probably has it memorized at this point. But she did read Pride and Prejudice again this summer. It is a favorite of hers to go back to when she's between books or can't find something to read. She's very similar to me in that aspect. I will reread books that I have loved in the past if I cannot find a new book to read. And I am totally okay with that. I love to reread books that I have loved in the past and see no problem with that. I know that some people have different opinions about that, but if I'm between books and can't think of something, I will go back to classics like Harry Potter and such. Why not? The next book that she read was the first book in the Unwanted series by Lisa McCann, and she described this as like Harry Potter meets the Hunger Games. So she really enjoyed this book quite a bit, and it is the first in a series. I love when I can find a good new series for my kids to read. It helps take some of the pressure off of me when I'm looking for books. If it's just a one-off book, and there's not a series associated with it, it makes my job harder to find new books. But this was a really good one, and she wants to continue with that series. The next 2 books that she read were the first 2 books in the Wizards of Once series by Cressida Cowell, who is the author of How to Train Your Dragon. Again, it is fantasy related. She really likes all of the fantasy stuff. If she could just read fantasy all the time, I think that she probably would. Last year, we did Sunlight Level J for her. Well, we did that for history as well as language arts for Emma, and she loved all of the books. It was very heavy in fantasy. So if you are interested in, if your child is interested in fantasy reading, Level J from Sunlight Language Arts was really, really good for her last year. And then the last book that she read was Children of the Fox by Kevin Sands. She just finished this. It's more of like a adventure. I think the kids are, I feel like they're delinquent children, but maybe have special powers. She really enjoyed that book too. It is also the first book in a series, but the next book doesn't come out, I don't think, until the end of October or November. So that was a little challenging because I guess the last line was total cliffhanger. And very similar to me, sometimes we do start series without having the series finished, and that is challenging. I actually did that with Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. Maybe February, March, I read the first Crescent City book because the second one was coming out. I didn't realize that there were going to be more books. I think it might be a trilogy. I don't know if it's going to be more books than the trilogy or not. So anyways, I actually did that to Jack as well. One of his books was the first in a series, and the second one I think comes out maybe at the end of August. So we shall see. So that leads us into Jack's books, and the first book that he read was Stowaway, and this is the book that has a sequel coming out, I believe, soon, I think. He really liked this book. I've talked in the past about how challenging it is for me to find books for Jack to read. He is very good about reading the books that I assign to him, but he doesn't necessarily enjoy them as much. And he is much more of a doer. He really likes to work with his hands or do computer programming or film videos for his little YouTube channel. He loves video games, all of that stuff. So it is challenging to find books for him. So we try to go to the library as much as possible, which really hasn't been an option until the past several months because our library was still under a lot of restrictions. So I'm hoping that as we start getting into the school year, we will be able to go to the library more and he will find some enjoyable books. I do have a video of all the books that he will be reading this year for 7th grade. He's going to be focusing on Maine studies this year for his history, and so I did pull a lot of Maine authors and or books that are based in Maine. So we will see how it goes. The first book that he read for this year, which has nothing to do with summer reading and will be included in my homeschool update video coming out soon, is The King's Fifth, which is from Sunlight Language Arts H, which he's doing this year, and he was not a fan. He was not a fan. He read it, he did all of the papers associated with it, but he did not enjoy it. So that was a miss on Mom's part. Anyways, the next book that he read was Ali Cross, Like Father, Like Son. This is the second book in a series. He read the first book, which I think is just called Ali Cross, last summer. It was from the Summer Sunlight Readers last year, I think, for middle grade boys. I think that's where I got it. So he really likes these books. I think there is going to be another one coming out soon, or maybe it's already out. Again, like I said, when I can find books in a series and the kids like the first book, it makes me so happy because then I have something to go to next. And then the last book that he read this summer is Cosmic, and he enjoyed this book as well. I don't really have a lot to say about these books. We don't really discuss them as much. It says, Liam has always had trouble keeping his feet on the ground. Being 239,000 miles from Earth doesn't make it any easier. So he really enjoyed this book as well. Recently, he has not been doing as much reading at night, which is when we tend to do a lot of our fun reading, I guess, because we do school reading during the day. Although sometimes in the regular school year, my kids, my older two, decide to read their school books at night, depending on what's going on throughout the days. But instead of doing a lot of reading at night, he has been doing a lot of writing instead. I think he's writing some sort of Zelda play, or I'm not sure exactly, but I am totally fine with him choosing to read or choosing to write at night. That's totally up to him. I do try and provide a lot of good quality literature and fun books to read for the kids, It's always my priority to provide good reading material for them. Now we will get into the books that my youngest child read, Lucy. She really started getting very comfortable with reading. She's 7. Around January. And I think part of that is because I started to let her do reading at night like my older 2 kids do. She's significantly younger than them, being just 7, but she saw that they would all be reading at night, and I also do the bulk of my enjoyable reading at night. So she was excited to also have the opportunity to sit up with a flashlight and read. She made some great progress throughout the winter months into the spring, and now she's reading every night, and I am loving listening to her read before bed. It is so fun. And she is having a great time. So I'm going to go through some of the books that she read. The first is Hildy Cracks the Case, Bear on the Loose. I know that Emma read these books as well. I have a second book here. Emma loved it when she was little, and Lucy really loved it as well because it is written by a young girl, and I think that she is like a reporter. She wanted to have like a little community newspaper, and that's something that this book actually encouraged Emma to create her own little newspaper when she was younger. And so it's great to see kids writing books and then encouraging my kids to read and write as well. The next is Hildy Cracks the Case, Hero Dog, which Lucy also really enjoyed. She likes the little mysteries. I find that when my kids are younger, they really like all of like the Nancy Drew Clue Crew or the Fancy Nancy or these types of books. She really enjoyed that. The next book that she read was Craftily Ever After, the Unfriendship Bracelet, which she also really liked. Some good lessons in here about making new friends, and it's okay for your best friend to have other friends. I really liked the message in this book, and Lucy enjoyed it as well. The next book that she read was Cranky Paws, a cute little book focused in a vet clinic, and anything surrounding animals I think is usually a hit with my kids, so I definitely recommend this one as well. And then she is just finishing up The Littles. This has not been her favorite book, but she really wanted to finish it. So I think that she must be enjoying it somewhat, because I do not force my kids to finish every single book that they read. Yes, some school books need to be read even if they are not enjoying them, but summer reading or fun reading, I do not make them finish the book if they do not want to. So this has not been her favorite, but she does like it enough to continue reading it every night. So that is a good thing. Now I am going to talk a little bit about my own reading. I do read a lot, and I know that that is going to maybe be discouraging to some people because I put such a high priority on reading. I spend a lot of my free time reading. Now, we are literature-based homeschoolers, which I mentioned before, and so during the day, I read a lot of books to my kids, and so I do count those as part of my reading. I don't count all of the little stories that I have read to maybe Lucy or Emma and Jack over the years, but if it's a book that's over 100 pages, I do count it in my personal reading. But the bulk of my personal reading is done at night, and I always want to read during the day for enjoyment. It never happens. I always think I'm going to sit down at 3 o'clock with a cup of tea and enjoy some reading. It never happens. I don't know how to make it happen during the day. I really would like it to. So the way that my reading tends to work is in the morning, I do my Bible reading, and I usually will read a little bit of nonfiction if I have time. But at night, I do fiction reading. One of my goals over the past couple of years is to read fiction every day, and I did meet that goal on either July 31st or August 1st. I met that goal. I was super excited. Now, this is just primarily for Kindle reading. I do tend to read books every day, either audiobooks, physical books, books to my kids. I try to read something every day, but I was trying to beat this record of an entire year of reading in my Kindle. I did do that. My reading is at night. I will read very late. I will start reading at 8 o'clock, and sometimes I typically read until about 11, but sometimes if it's a good book or if I'm towards the end of a book, I will read until like 2 o'clock in the morning and get up and move on with my day. It is not something I recommend, but it is something that I do probably a few times a month. So I'm going to go through some of the books that I've read. I do have a book journal from Erin Condren. It is a monthly planner. My goal for this year is to read 250 books. I think I've read 141 this year so far, maybe 146. I haven't logged all of them in Goodreads, which is part of the reason that I am trying a reading journal this year. Yes. So my reading has really kind of fallen off in the summer because we have been so busy, and that's okay. I still was reading every day, but it was not nearly as much as I normally read. I would maybe read for 30 minutes instead of a couple of hours. And when you do that, obviously it takes a lot longer to get through books. So most of the books that I have read this summer have been fantasy books. I started the Throne of Glass series in April of this year. And so I finished the first book at the end of April, and then I did not pick up the second book until towards the end of May. I think I picked up the second book, and I read through all 7 books in the series. They were really good. I had never heard of this series before, and in fact, the reason that I went to read this series was because I had read Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas, and I was really interested to see what her earlier works were like. This is a YA series, YA fantasy. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I love fantasy, just like Emma. Fantasy is one of my go-to genres. I also really like dystopian books, which Emma also enjoys, and post-apocalyptic books. I think like 1 Second After or the Boston Brahmin series. I really enjoy those types of books. And then I read a lot of romance as well. So the Throne of Glass series was great. I definitely recommend it. Those books are long. And around the 3rd, 4th, 5th book, it was a little bit harder for me to get through the rest of the series because I felt like it was kind of dragging a little bit, and I just wanted to know what was going to happen next. But I really did enjoy the series. I definitely recommend it. Emma wants to read it. I think I'm going to wait maybe until next summer for her to read it just because of some of the content. But yes, that was a really good series. And then because I was having trouble finding books, I really have struggled finding books since probably April. If I went back and I watched my homeschool update for April, talking about the books that I had read, and most of the books that I had been reading April, May, June have been like 3-star reads for me. There are rarely times that I rate books 1 or 2 stars because I will DNF a book if it is not something that I enjoy. And so I read a lot of samples, but I did not finish a lot of books from like May through, when I'm recording this video in mid-August. So I've had a little bit of trouble finding books recently, but I really did enjoy the Throne of Glass series. And then I went back and I started reading some of Mariana Zapata's books. She is a romance author, and she has some very, very hefty books as well, from Lukov with Love, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, Culty, Hands Down, and what was the other one? Dear Erin, which I recommend you listen to on audio because it is mainly focused on emails and letters back and forth for like the first half of the book, I think. And so it's easier to listen to it with two narrators rather than reading it. It can get a little more challenging to read it. But I really enjoyed all of those books. A lot of those were rereads for me. Like I said, I do go back to books that I just enjoy if I can't find anything to read. And I have not been finding anything recently to read, which is a struggle because I really do enjoy reading books. Some of the books that I have been reading to my kids are, we read the first Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Lucy has never listened to those books or read those books. She's still too young to read them on her own. But she did bring me the illustrated version, and I said, okay, it's time, we're going to do this. Now, the problem is that she is my child that has seen several of the Harry Potter movies already. Because I have two older kids, it is a completely different environment raising a little one in a home with tweens and teens. So she has seen some of the earlier Harry Potter movies, and I really do try and do the book before the movie for any of our reading, but that has not been the case. But it prompted her to want to read the first book, so we read that together. Emma and Jack listened as well. They love Harry Potter. And then we are almost done with the second book, The Chamber of Secrets. I am reading Lord of the Rings with Emma and Jack. Emma is supposed to be doing a slingshot through Brave Writer with the Lord of the Rings. It was supposed to be August. It's not going to be August. Some of my Brave Writer plans have kind of gone out the window based on some other outside homeschool stuff that has happened over the past several weeks. So that's okay. Yes, so that's kind of where we are at with our reading for the summer. They are into their new reading for the school year, and I'm really excited. And Emma is enjoying the books that she's been reading so far. She's read Father Brown, and The Best of Father Brown, and she is almost done with Oliver Twist right now. So she's enjoying her books. Jack's not quite as happy, and Lucy is reading through a children's Bible right now. That's her reading, assigned reading for her homeschool. So yes, this was a very wordy vlog. I hope that you got some good book recommendations. I would love to talk books with you. If you have suggestions for me, I'm always open to new suggestions for books. I will pretty much try anything once, and you know, if it's a good series, I am all ears for it. Leave me a comment and let me know what you have been reading. Don't forget to check out the playlist with all of the other homeschoolers sharing their summer reading and how it went in their homes. And yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.